Have you ever witnessed someone walk into a room and suddenly the entire atmosphere changes? It's as though they hold an invisible power that reshapes everything around them without uttering a single word. No dramatic gestures, no loud proclamations. They don't shout, they don't argue, they don't even plead their case. Instead, they simply withdraw from the noise, stepping back into themselves. And in that silence, everything shifts. When this person pulls away, people around them start to feel a subtle, almost imperceptible change in the energy. It's like the entire room feels different, almost like it's holding its breath. The chatter quiets, the actions slow, and for a moment, people pause and reflect. There's no immediate response to the usual impulses. Instead of pushing back against what's happening around them, this individual stands still, rooted in their own peace. And in that stillness, something profound happens. The chaos, the drama, the noise, all seem to lose their grip. It's as if the world, which is constantly in motion, is now forced to reckon with the calm that this person exudes. Now, imagine you were the one doing that. What if, instead of reacting impulsively to every situation, you chose silence instead? What if you decided not to respond immediately when provoked or agitated, but instead to hold your ground and retreat into a moment of reflection? How would it feel to stop trying to meet every expectation, to simply pull back and observe, rather than always feeling the need to engage? The answer to this question holds the key to an incredible personal transformation. You see, the moment you stop being constantly available emotionally, physically, mentally, the world around you goes into crisis. People begin to question you, and more importantly, they begin to question themselves. They are used to your reactions, your availability, your willingness to step in whenever they need you. They have come to expect your responses to be immediate and predictable. And when you refuse to engage as they expect, it disrupts the balance. The world they once knew suddenly becomes uncertain. What happens when you stop being emotionally reactive? When you choose silence instead of the automatic, knee-jerk responses you've always given? You disrupt the game. You become unpredictable. And in your unavailability, those who once took your presence for granted start to feel that familiar anxiety of losing control. And as they try to provoke you, try to elicit some response, they are unknowingly revealing more about themselves than they are about you. In fact, this act of withdrawal, the choice to stop giving immediate responses, unveils a harsh truth. The people who seem the most upset by your silence are often the ones who were benefiting from your emotional energy the most. They might have depended on you for validation, for attention, for support, or even for distraction from their own issues. And when you choose not to give that energy away so easily, they panic. They feel abandoned, rejected, or confused. But what they are truly experiencing is the collapse of the emotional control they once held over you. This is where the deeper realization occurs. You've been conditioned your entire life to respond quickly to everyone's needs, whether it's family, friends, coworkers, or acquaintances. You've been taught that your value lies in how quickly you can react to the people around you. You've learned that being present at all times, being emotionally available, is the ultimate way to maintain peace, keep people close, and hold relationships intact. But here's the unsettling truth. This incessant availability is not a virtue. It's a trap. The idea that always being there for others is a noble thing is deeply ingrained in most of us. It's what society teaches you to be, the reliable one, the helper, the one who can be counted on for support. But in truth, this constant availability is more of a prison than a path to fulfillment. The more you give of yourself emotionally, physically, or mentally, the less you have left for yourself. You become exhausted, depleted, and eventually, you feel empty. But the emptiness is not an accident. It's the result of pouring your energy into people and situations that, in the end, do not nurture you or honor your true self. Every time you say yes when you mean no, every time you immediately respond to a text or a call, even when you're overwhelmed, you're giving away a piece of your energy, and that piece, once given, is gone. It doesn't come back. Over time, you become emotionally and mentally drained, struggling to fill the void left by those pieces of yourself that you've handed out without question. And in the end, when you look at yourself in the mirror, you'll notice that what's left doesn't feel like you anymore. It feels like a shallow version of yourself that's been hollowed out by the constant demands of others. The problem lies not in being present or available, but in being too available. It's the idea of being present to everyone except yourself. You've been conditioned to think that your worth is tied to how much you give, how much you sacrifice, and how much you're willing to endure for the sake of others. But when was the last time you asked yourself, "What about me?" When did you last consider your own needs and desires as equally important as those of others? That's where the key lies. Reclaiming your sense of self by learning the power of withdrawal. This video is not about abandoning the world or cutting yourself off from relationships. It's about recognizing that true power comes from choosing yourself. It's about understanding that, as Carl Jung described, the process of individuation is the journey toward becoming whole, authentic, and complete. This journey begins with the recognition that silence can be more powerful than 1,000 arguments. When you withdraw from emotional chaos, when you stop reacting, you are engaging in an act of power. Not because you're avoiding confrontation or hiding from problems, but because you are taking control of your energy and choosing where it goes. And when you make that choice, something incredible happens. You stop being the puppet on the string. You stop being controlled by the emotional fluctuations of others. Instead, you become the master of your own emotional landscape, and the world around you begins to respond to the new, more grounded, more self-assured version of you. So ask yourself, looking deeply into your own eyes, how long will you continue to let the world control you through its demands and emotional triggers? How long will you react like a puppet every time someone presses your buttons? Maybe it's time to cut those strings. Maybe it's time to stop being so available to everyone else and start being available to yourself. Because when you stop being available, everything changes. For as long as we can remember, we've been taught that being available to others is the essence of what it means to be a good person. From childhood, we're told to be there for others, to be the dependable one, the one people can always turn to. We learn that our worth is tied to how much we can give to others, to how available we are, both physically and emotionally. It becomes ingrained in us that to be loved, to be accepted, we must be constantly present. And in many ways, this pattern becomes our identity. We believe that our value is reflected in how readily we can serve others, how quickly we can answer the call for help, how eager we are to put others' needs before our own. But here's a critical truth that few people ever consider. Excessive availability is not a sign of strength, it is a form of self-sabotage. Think about it. When you make yourself constantly available, emotionally or otherwise, you become predictable. And predictability is the enemy of true power. Predictability allows others to take you for granted. They know you will always be there, ready to drop everything for them, ready to validate their feelings, ready to listen to their problems, even when you have your own. But this predictability comes at a steep price, one that many of us fail to recognize until it's too late. It makes you nothing more than an emotional tool. People start to use you, not for who you are, but for what you provide. The emotional validation, the comfort, the sense of security. You become a kind of emotional emergency button that people press when they're in need. And once they have what they want from you, they put you back on the shelf. But you don't notice this because you're still stuck in the illusion that being present for everyone will somehow make them be present for you in return. You believe that the more available you are, the more people will appreciate you. But that's simply not how it works. Carl Jung, a master of understanding the human psyche, introduced the concept of the persona, the mask we wear to fit into society and gain acceptance. This persona is what makes us seem approachable, dependable, and emotionally available. But what many fail to realize is that this mask is also what traps us in cycles of emotional depletion. When you are constantly making yourself available to others, you are essentially giving yourself away piece by piece. You respond to messages right away, even when you are exhausted. You explain yourself when you don't owe anyone an explanation. You justify your actions, your feelings, and your choices, thinking that you need to make people understand. But in doing so, you're only distancing yourself from your true self. You've been trained to believe that your value lies in how much you give to others, in how much you sacrifice. But the reality is this: being available all the time is a subtle form of self-abandonment. It's a way of seeking external validation, of trying to control how others perceive you. But this false control comes at the cost of your inner peace. It's like you're giving away pieces of your soul, thinking you are filling the needs of others, but in reality, you're just emptying yourself. And as you give and give, you eventually realize that there's nothing left for you. You've been drained, manipulated, and forgotten as soon as you're no longer useful. You've become so ingrained in this cycle of self-sacrifice that it feels natural to keep giving. But what does that leave you with? Exhaustion, frustration, a deep, gnawing emptiness that you can't explain. You feel tired, mentally and emotionally. You feel drained, but you don't know why. And the reason is simple. You've been too available for people who don't deserve your time, your energy, or your presence. It's not about turning your back on the world or abandoning people. It's about recognizing that your energy is sacred and you need to protect it. When you choose silence over automatic responses, when you choose withdrawal over emotional explosions, you are taking back your power. It's about reclaiming control over your own energy. And in doing so, you will discover something extraordinary. You are not defined by how available you are to others. You are defined by how available you are to yourself. So the question becomes, how long will you continue to be controlled by the emotional needs of others? How long will you keep reacting as if you are beholden to everyone around you? How long will you let people use you as an emotional crutch, draining you until there's nothing left? It's time to stop. It's time to take back control, to stop being so available, to stop being predictable, and to start choosing yourself. Because when you stop being emotionally available, everything changes. There's a cost to everything in life, and being overly available to others is no exception. As we've explored earlier, the more you give to others, the less you have for yourself. But the price is not just emotional depletion, it's the way it reshapes how others see you. When you make yourself too available, people stop seeing you for who you really are. Instead, they start to see you as a resource, something they can turn to when they need emotional support, validation, or distraction. But here's the kicker. The more available you are, the less people value you. Think about it. When something is abundant and easy to get, we don't think it's valuable. We take it for granted. The more you give of yourself, the less people appreciate you. Why? Because they don't have to earn your presence, your energy, or your time. And when something is easily accessible, it loses its value. People stop respecting you because they don't have to work for your attention. This is the hidden trap of excessive availability. It diminishes your value in the eyes of others. They stop respecting your boundaries, your time, and your energy because they know you'll always be there when they need you. And what happens when you change? What happens when you decide to set a boundary, to say no, to withdraw, instead of rushing in with a quick response? Those same people who once took you for granted become frustrated, irritated, even angry. But it's not because you've changed, it's because you no longer fit into the role they had assigned you. They wanted you to be predictable. They wanted you to be always available, always at their beck and call. But now that you've stopped playing that role, they don't know what to do with you. They feel threatened because you've stopped being a tool for their emotional needs. And this is where things get interesting. Your silence reveals more about them than it does about you. People who are used to you being emotionally available start to get upset when you change the rules. They may accuse you of being selfish, distant, or cold. They may try to guilt trip you into responding, to making yourself available again. But the truth is, they are reacting because they've lost control. They can no longer manipulate you through your emotional reactions. And this is uncomfortable for them. It forces them to confront the reality that they can't keep using you to fulfill their needs. This is when the real transformation begins. When you start to protect your energy, when you stop being available all the time, you will notice a significant shift in your relationships. Some people will try to guilt trip you. Others will distance themselves. But those who truly care for you will respect your boundaries. They will appreciate you more because now they have to earn your attention, your time, and your emotional investment. You become rare, and rarity breeds value. So, ask yourself, who truly deserves your time? Who is worthy of your energy, your presence, your listening ear? Who is truly deserving of your emotional investment? And perhaps, just as importantly, who deserves your absence? Because the truth is, not everyone is worthy of your emotional presence. Some people are only around because you've allowed them to be. They've grown accustomed to your availability, your willingness to give, and they have never had to earn it. But when you start setting boundaries and saying no, they'll be forced to see you for who you really are, not as a tool for their emotional needs, but as a complete, whole person with your own needs, desires, and boundaries. The choice to stop being available to everyone is not an easy one. It challenges everything you've been conditioned to believe about your role in the world. It forces you to confront the uncomfortable truth that your worth does not depend on your availability to others. And that is a powerful realization. But this shift in mindset is not just about saying no to others, it's about saying yes to yourself. When you choose yourself, when you prioritize your own peace and well-being, you begin to reclaim your personal power. And with that power comes the ability to shape your own life, to create boundaries that protect your energy, and to stop being defined by the needs and demands of others. Jung's concept of individuation is crucial here. He believed that the journey to becoming your true, authentic self requires moments of isolation and reflection. It's about disconnecting from the external noise, from the expectations and projections of others, so you can reconnect with your true essence. And it's in this space of self-reflection and quiet that you can truly begin to heal, grow, and become whole. But here's the catch. The more you start choosing yourself, the more uncomfortable it will be for others. They may not understand why you've stopped reacting the way you used to. They may feel confused, even betrayed. But this discomfort is part of the process. It's not a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's a sign that you're finally doing something right. As you continue to choose yourself, you'll start to notice a change in your relationships. Some people will fall away, and that's okay. They were never meant to be part of your journey to self-discovery. Others will respect your boundaries and begin to understand your value in a new light. They'll see you not as an emotional tool, but as a sovereign being who is no longer willing to be controlled or manipulated. And in this newfound power, you will find something remarkable: true peace. This is the essence of the transformation we're talking about. Choosing yourself, learning to say no, Learning to be selectively unavailable is not just about protecting yourself from others. It's about creating a life where you are the author of your own story, where you are no longer reacting to the world, but actively shaping it from within. The concept of psychic energy plays a pivotal role in understanding why it's so important to stop being so emotionally available to everyone. Carl Jung, the legendary Swiss psychologist, did not view the human psyche as some automatic machine, reacting mindlessly to external stimuli. He saw the human mind as a complex energy system, an intricate network of thoughts, emotions, and experiences that consume energy with every single action, decision, and interaction. But here's the crucial question. Are you actively choosing where your energy goes, or are you letting others dictate it for you? In life, we all have a limited supply of psychic energy, our internal power. And just like any form of energy, this psychic energy can be wasted, consumed, or replenished. Every time you react to someone's criticism, every time you try to justify yourself or prove that you're right, you are using up precious energy. When you engage in arguments that don't serve your peace, when you try to please people who don't value you, or when you respond to emotional triggers from others, you are losing pieces of your psychic energy. Think about all the times you've gotten caught in unproductive emotional cycles. Maybe someone made a snide comment, and instead of letting it go, you spent hours trying to figure out why they said it, or you spent the next few days replaying the conversation in your mind over and over again. Maybe you engaged in an argument that you knew deep down would lead nowhere, but you couldn't help yourself. You had to be right. Every time you do this, you're draining your energy. You're feeding into something that isn't nourishing or fulfilling. Jung was crystal clear about this. That which you resist persists. The more you react to something, the more you fuel it. The more you try to defend yourself against something or someone, the more you keep it alive. Every time you respond to a provocation, you strengthen the emotional bond that keeps you stuck. It becomes an endless loop of emotional expenditure, and you're left feeling exhausted without ever receiving anything in return. This is where most people go wrong. They are not weak. They are simply misdirected in how they use their energy. They think they have to engage with every emotional trigger, every conflict, every challenge that comes their way. But by doing so, they don't realize that they are opening themselves up to be manipulated. The more you react, the more you give away. And the more you give, the less you have to give back to yourself. People who live emotionally drained are not lacking strength. They are wasting their energy on things and people who don't deserve it. When you allow yourself to be continuously emotionally available, without boundaries, without limits, you become vulnerable. Vulnerability, in this sense, means being exposed to the emotional demands of others without any form of protection. And when you're vulnerable, you're easy prey. Manipulative people, opportunistic people, and emotionally needy people can sense this vulnerability from a mile away. They can tell you don't know how to guard your energy, and they will take advantage of it. Imagine a person who has no awareness of their own emotions, constantly reacting to everything that comes their way. They feel drained and emotionally spent all the time, but they don't know why. They may feel vulnerable and out of control, yet they are trapped in an invisible web of emotional reactions. It's as if their energy is leaking out of them, and no matter what they do, they can never get it back. Jung taught that a healthy psyche is one that knows how to contain its energy. It is one that understands the importance of saying no without guilt, of remaining silent without feeling cowardly, and of observing the world around them before reacting. It is the ability to choose when and how to act, and more importantly, when not to act. The true power is not in reacting immediately to everything, but in selectively choosing when to engage. You have to ask yourself, how many times have you found yourself emotionally drained, upset, or disturbed because you allowed someone else's emotions to dictate your own? How often have you stayed up late, ruminating over a conversation that left you frustrated, angry, or hurt? How many times have you wasted your precious energy trying to figure out why someone treated you badly, or why something happened that you couldn't control? This is the essence of psychic energy being drained, keeping emotional ghosts alive that should have been laid to rest long ago. Every time you engage in these emotional spirals, you feed them. You give them power, and as a result, you become drained and vulnerable. But when you begin to guard your energy, when you start recognizing your emotional triggers and choosing not to react, you take back your power. You stop feeding the cycles that don't serve you. You stop holding on to emotional baggage and allow yourself the freedom to move forward without constantly looking back at past emotional wounds. So, why is silence such a powerful tool in protecting your psychic energy? Because, as Carl Jung explains, silence is not a void, it is fertile ground for transformation. When you choose silence, you are not withdrawing in fear or cowardice. You are stepping into a space where you are in control of your energy, where you are no longer reacting out of impulse or emotional obligation, but from a place of awareness and sovereignty. Silence is an incredibly potent weapon, but it's not just the absence of noise. It's the absence of reaction. When you stop reacting to every provocation, every criticism, every expectation, you create a space around you, a space where you are free from the external demands of the world. It's in this space that true transformation happens. The kind of transformation that Jung called individuation, the process of becoming your true self, whole and undistracted by the noise of others. Jung also said that individuation requires distancing from the collective, from the projections and expectations that others place upon you. It requires withdrawal, but not in a negative or isolating way. Rather, it's a withdrawal that allows you to reconnect with your true essence, to step away from the constant emotional demands, and to find clarity. Have you noticed how some people panic when you don't respond to them right away? When you don't immediately offer an explanation or justification for your actions? It's not because they miss you, but because your silence takes away their narrative control. When you speak, you are still part of their story, still playing your role in their emotional drama. But when you choose silence, you disrupt the narrative. You change the rules of the game. And this unbalances those who rely on your reactions to define their own emotional state. True silence, the silence that comes from a place of awareness and power, does not need to be loud. It doesn't need to be accompanied by dramatic actions or confrontations. It simply is. It's a powerful presence that speaks volumes without saying a word. This is the power of conscious silence, the ability to withdraw not out of fear or insecurity, but from a place of absolute clarity and self-assurance. When you stop reacting and start observing, you begin to see things differently. You see the patterns of emotional manipulation. You see the cycles of self-sabotage. You see the dynamics that keep you stuck. And in that awareness, you reclaim your energy. You stop giving yourself away to things that don't serve you. You stop allowing your emotions to be controlled by external forces. And most importantly, you stop allowing others to control you through your emotional responses. This kind of silence may make others uncomfortable, but it's the most profound act of self-preservation. It's the kind of silence that forces others to confront their own emotions, their own insecurities, and their own projections. And when they can no longer rely on you to maintain their emotional narrative, they become unsettled. They may criticize you, accuse you of being cold or distant. But in reality, they are only revealing how much they were relying on your emotional chaos to keep their own emotions in check. When you choose silence and withdrawal, you are not abandoning the world. You are returning to yourself. True sovereignty comes from knowing when and how to withdraw, to protect your energy, and to stop being emotionally available to everyone. It's about choosing yourself first and letting go of the false idea that you need to be available at all times for others. Jung spoke of the shadow parts of ourselves that we repress or hide because they don't fit the expectations of society or others. When you stop reacting and start choosing silence, you force others to confront their own shadow. They no longer have the comfort of projecting their insecurities onto you. You stop being their emotional punching bag, their emotional safety net. But the process of choosing sovereignty is not easy. It comes with discomfort, rejection, and isolation. You will lose people along the way, but you will also gain something much more precious: your true self. You will no longer be defined by how others see you. You will no longer be a puppet in their emotional drama. You will no longer feel the need to explain yourself, to justify your choices, or to defend your boundaries. And as you go through this process, you will find that those who are truly meant to be in your life will respect your silence, your boundaries, and your sovereignty. They will see you for who you truly are, not for the role you used to play in their lives. And in doing so, they will bring you peace, not because they give you validation, but because you've learned to validate yourself. You've learned to stand on your own, to be whole without needing the approval or attention of anyone else. I want you to take a moment to reflect on everything we've discussed today. We've touched on some deep and transformative concepts: how silence can become your greatest strength, how withdrawing emotionally can change your relationships, and how choosing yourself is the first step toward real empowerment. But now, it's your turn to take action. If you found this message valuable, if it has made you think about how you interact with the world and the people around you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with those who might benefit from this shift in mindset. Share it with the people who need to hear that they are allowed to say no, that they are allowed to protect their energy, and that they are allowed to choose their own peace. Like this video if you agree that silence is more powerful than words, and that reclaiming your energy is a form of strength. Hit that subscribe button if you're ready to embark on this journey of self-discovery, transformation, and sovereignty with us. Quantum Core is here to help you reclaim your power, break free from emotional manipulation, and live life on your own terms. Comment below and tell us, are you ready to stop reacting to the world and start choosing your own energy? How will you begin to implement the power of silence and emotional withdrawal in your life? Let us know your thoughts, your struggles, and your victories. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to share this video with anyone who might need to hear this message. The more we share this wisdom, the more people can start reclaiming their emotional sovereignty and living lives of true peace and self-determination. Subscribe to Quantum Core now and join us on this journey to becoming your truest, most powerful self. Your peace is your power, and it's time to protect it. Thank you for watching, and remember, your silence is not emptiness, it is your presence, your power, your sovereignty. Keep it strong.